In 1995, it was peak Jim Carrey, with him being one of the most successful actors in the world, having an insane acclaim streak, beginning with Ace Ventura, followed by The Mask, and ending on a little movie I like to call Bad. The man was rolling in it, having found success with everyone from the intellectual critics calling him the new face for the modern leading man, signifying a change for all of Hollywood, to the common man dubbing the young comedian as Carrey had it all, but soon he realized he was tired.
I'm sick and tired
of making money. Sorry, that's wrong. He was just tired of making good movies. Just kidding. Dumb and Dumber sucks. After firing off another Ace Ventura and Batman 4, he decided to venture into new territory. Flop City. A place that only pays a meager paycheck of $20 million. Alright, that's pretty good, but soon it became the biggest mistake of his entire career. The Cable Guy. The misunderstood technical flop. But why did audiences and critics alike not like this movie? Well, I'm glad I asked, because that's what I'll be checking out in today's episode of The Tuna Cable.
No, don't patronize me. I don't need that.
Hi, welcome back to the Tuna Can, where we like to look into cold hits and ask the hard questions such as what, why, where, and when, and sometimes why. In today's episode, we talk about one of the more wider cult movies, The Cable Guy, written by prosecutor-turned-screenwriter Lou Holtz Jr., who late one night, while visiting his mother, noticed a cable man still there and decided to ask the very extremely potent and important question, why? Sparking an idea in his small, feeble brain, he then wrote the script, Cable. After Future Cut,
I don't mind when it's friends.
Judd Apatow reworked the story, Ben Stiller was hired on as director, and Jim Carrey was cast in the lead role for $20 million, setting a Hollywood landmark, but with it brought an unwanted amount of scrutiny.
We have to talk about the $20 million man.
Finally, the film came to fruition in 1996, releasing under the name The Cable Guy. It was met with quite a bit of backlash due to the darker tones and Jim Carrey's different performance.
Doesn't seem like himself lately.
With one fan citing,
"This is not my Jim Carrey." I turns to my wife and I says, "Who is this guy? I don't know this guy."
Another exclaiming, "Where's my animal anus? I need my animal anus." Things aren't really going great at home right now. And thus, after an unimpressive box office return of $102 million, the movie was widely kind of forgotten.
Okay, I'm going! Take off!
But The Cable Guy isn't just your run-of-the-mill Carrey flick. Sure, there are the classic Carreyisms, i.e. funny faces, hilarious line readings, and being horny. But in this film, they're just surface level. The Cable Guy is one of his more complex characters that he'd done back then and since. And sadly, as we all know, film critics are very dumb and stupid and retarded. But luckily, as a film enjoyer, I can recognize what the critics and audiences alike missed, as The Cable Guy is actually a brilliant study on the dichotomy between reality and television. Reality, for example, is chock full of the most depressing and mundane problems you'll ever have. More importantly, those issues are based on each person's perspective, making them much more complex than they should be. As we all know, there is no three-act structure to our lives. Sometimes people just die in the middle of a plot. Cancer usually isn't a motif or motivation, it's just a disease. Cockroaches aren't a plot device. They don't live and have sex in their own poop at my apartment complex because my landlord decided I needed a season arc. No, it's just something currently happening at the Core Vistas on 7 Bar Ranch in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 87114.
I'm probably dead.
Things happen. Television, on the other hand, has purpose. It has rules. Things shown happening are shown for a reason. It provides much needed narrative and reason to our aimless ways of living. Difficult problems are condensed into easy, consumable formats. Eventually, it'll have some sort of finale that you don't have to deal with. The primary purpose of TV is to entertain, and reality's primary purpose is to exist. But what if the line between TV and reality is crossed? Well,
Hi.
Nobody out here who's watching this doesn't believe there's something in their life they can improve.
Call now for a no-risk 30-day.
just as easily as he did on August 5th, 1987, Matthew Broderick once again takes the lives of people. But this time, he instead puts them on full display, presenting us with their wants, needs, and romances in the form of character Steven Kovacs.
Jesus.
Showing us the perspective of the average American man who's having troubles in his day-to-day life, but still living. His job,
project and you screw it up, it's not gonna be my ass. Now I have all the confidence in the
his
world in you.
pain, he's growing apart from his bros,
So you're blowing me off. I can't believe this.
and his relationship isn't doing too hot.
Steven doesn't live here anymore. If you want
All
to
culminating with him flipping through channels on his couch, alone in his apartment. His life appears to be depressing and mundane, but only from the viewpoint of the audience. Realistically, Steven Kovacs seems to actually be okay with where he is. Sad, yes, he has problems in his life, but they're just there to exist. Such as his relationship with Robin, who dumped him after a proposal, something he's unable to fix.
All she had to do was say no. She didn't have to kick me out.
Or his job, which consists of meetings, buying buildings, going to buildings, making buildings, and having meetings about buildings. The conflict? None, really. Well, I mean, just the boss stuff, but the real drive comes from making a living. Both of these motivations serve no purpose other than giving something for our protagonist to do, barely even being conflict.
So how's work?
Works good.
More so just problems that currently exist. There's no real purpose for them in the movie. They aren't integral to our character's arc. When the film ends, his days will continue, and so will those problems.
I was gonna go to that bed and bath place, and now it's closed.
Unlike the audience, he doesn't get to see the credits. Even by the end of the movie, neither matter. His relationship with Robin is never fully repaired, he just kinda saves her. And once he's fired from his job, the movie just drops the subplot entirely. But I think that's kind of the point. His life is just a realistic portrayal of people's day-to-day issues. In fact, it's so realistic, the movie itself becomes disinterested within the first 5 minutes, allowing the audience to meet the antagonist, Chip Douglas, aka
The cable guy.
someone so different and interesting. Our own protagonist is shown to be completely captivated by this character's strange existence.
Tell me where your Nike.
It's only when the cable guy asks about Kovacs' private life through a Dutch angle is that illusion broken.
Your lady kicked you out. What?
The cable guy is the only thread that keeps Steven Kovacs engaged with the film, providing him with conflict for all of his problems. He brings Kovacs the entertainment value of television as if he were television, pulling him back in with spectacle, sports, drama, action,
Come back here!
and just an all-around good time.
American woman!
The cable guy pits the cable guy against Steven Kovacs with not only straightforward conflict, but also a meta lens to explore the non-conflict problems reality has, portraying the trappings of a television perspective on the world.
This is kind of difficult. Hold on. Showtime.
Television isn't cable, especially back in this era. It wasn't automatically filled with the content that cable had to offer. Normally, when you turned on a television, you were met with this. Needless to say, it's not preloaded with any content. There's an obvious and clear distinction between it and actual media. Now, we have several apps, each of which have become their own distinct type of representation for their own respective content. Netflix, hit or miss, Peacock, Trashcan, HBO Max. But back then, TV was everything. It was the face for all media, a synonym for cable, utilizing the simple art of clicking several buttons to bring you something that will, without a doubt, keep your interest. And the Cable Guy movie perfectly encapsulates this idea, and uses it to its own advantage. He's not only part of the audience for television, but uniquely also the television.
This concludes our broadcast day.
The casting of Jim Carrey was perfect in this regard, with he himself actually beginning his career as an imitator.
This is his first appearance on American television. Would you welcome Jim Carrey? Jim?
Mimicking multitudes of celebrities through his impressive facial contortions. And as we see in the movie, our titular character also defines himself through these cheap imitations as well, although strictly choosing his identities based off of TV shows.
It's Chip and Ernie Douglas.
Bingo! My 3 sons.
Not only raised on TV, but also the TV, living life through quotes, references, and insane antics, all in the name of what he claims is friendship, but more realistically is viewership. He never fully seems to understand the weight of each situation in the movie, instead trying to fix things in completely illogical ways. That only makes sense in the land of TV.
Okay, she's totally clean.
Every real-world problem he can't fix sends him into a rage, getting him more and more violent and unhinged as the film progresses, resembling a similar path of the infamous Sam Sweet, but at a faster rate.
You give me something so much more valuable. Friendship.
Yeah, and you've given me friendship, so we're even.
For Stephen Kovacs, the cable guy is an easy way out of his troubles, using fun, humor, and advice, with each situation structure based in TV. The cable guy intentionally and unintentionally provides Stephen Kovacs with narrative conflict. Problems now have reason for their existence, bringing importance to the mundane, even saving Kovacs' relationship at one point through the TV logic of
Jerry Springer's final thought on Friday's show.
And just like the infomercial previously,
I think you try to tell her what she wants to hear. She wants you to thirst for knowledge about who she is.
the advice is completely worthless and hollow, and it doesn't even end up working.
That's not time with Marc. That's time with someone else.
Yet it still draws Stephen's attention.
That's incredibly insightful.
Kovacs himself ends up using this logic later in the film in an attempt to mend his friendship with Jack Black.
The concert, oh Jesus.
After once again blowing him off, he decides to
So I'll call you later.
call him later, completely missing the complex emotions of the situation and Jack Black. The cable guy gives easy TV solutions to real-world problems, so why can't Kovacs?
You're right.
The relationship in the movie demonstrates the distortion between TV and man. The cable guy becomes the entertainment for Kovacs,
Silence of the lambs.
and Kovacs becomes the viewer for the cable guy.
Lord.
Each scene places more importance on the continuation of the relationship. Every time Kovacs decides to come back,
Anything you want, just name it quickly.
Tomorrow night, karaoke jam, your place.
You go again next week.
results in a further distortion of that line. Take the basketball game, for example. Freshly dressed like a character from White Shadow, Cable Guy is shown to be having a great time, trash-talking the boys and playing a mean, hard game of BB, all culminating with him getting the winning shot. Or, at least that's how he perceived it. In reality, he was doing this.
That was a trouble! Big salami's open.
With the game only ending because he broke the backboard, humiliating Jack Black along the way.
I guess we're done.
Something that's specifically pointed out by Kovacs.
You ruined the game.
To which the cable guy replies with,
Friends aren't supposed to speak to each other.
What are you
while looking concerned, not quite talking to Kovacs, but instead himself, trying to find confirmation in his own actions. But as the scene ends, Cable Guy appears to still be in denial, pretending as though there was no problem.
I guess we'll talk later. I gotta go shower and do some stuff anyway.
However, Stephen's reaction is what finishes the scene, with his upset, anxious emotions still being prevalent, leading to the cable guy finally acknowledging this by obsessively calling Kovacs and leaving several messages, the last of which being concerned with not only losing his viewership,
I was just taking a whiz. Thought you might have called. Okay, later.
but also cracking due to the more complicated and seemingly arbitrary emotions brought on by the literal reality check from Stephen Kovacs.
What are you talking about? We're not friends. I don't even know you. Even know you. Even know you. Even know you.
But when a rage-filled Chip Douglas comes to shut off his cable and intimidate him, we see Kovacs now in a completely different state of mind.
Problem with your service? Yeah, my cable is out.
Surprising both Chip and the audience, he agrees to
Hang out. Fine, anything you want.
a scene not only showing the audience the cable guy's true intentions, but also a look into the real-world aspects of Kovacs' character.
That's pretty impressive.
Someone who is witnessing the film in real life, with no way of seeing it from the audience's perspective. Not quite understanding the basketball game for what it was, a catalyst for Cable Guy's current behavior.
Is there a problem with your service?
Kovacs' reaction to Cable Guy showing up immediately is
Yeah, my cable is out.
relief, oblivious to the bad vibes of the situation. And why shouldn't he be? It's only framed in the movie that there are sinister things brewing. After Cable Guy leaves, Kovacs seemingly has a slight concerned reaction about what happened.
Yeah, I'm fine. Gonna look fine.
However, at the same time, this could be instead due to Sleepless in Seattle. Oh great, a movie. How boring. Why? Well, he doesn't need TV anymore. He has the cable guy. In fact, besides this moment, from the time he goes on the first hangout with Cable Guy, Kovacs isn't shown looking at a single screen till after he cuts ties with the Cable Guy. He's so enthralled with the entertainment provided to him that Kovacs begins to excuse his questionable actions and criminal antics.
I got you the big screen TV.
Similarly to how we view TV's portrayal of criminality. If we see violent or criminal acts on TV, we know it's lawfully wrong, but we're not gonna turn off the TV. No, I love watching murder, man. I wanna see blood squirt. His reaction is a combination of distress and boredom. If you look closely, Robin even matches his sigh with a smile, ready to be once again taken by the marvelous world of television. But look at his! That's not excitement. He doesn't care. He already has that. It's just confirmation. His own denial with his own world. He even goes as far as listening to Chip again and doesn't make a move on Robin.
Don't kiss her. Don't even touch her. Resist the urge at all costs. It'll pay off in the end. Huh?
Take that very next night at medieval times, beginning with food and ending in battle. Throughout the whole scene, Kovacs is expressing a reluctance in continuing their friendship.
Look, I have to tell you, this is kind of difficult.
But by the end of the night, after a dangerous fight with dangerous weapons, Steven stays. With his anxieties falling by the wayside, and furthering the distortment between the two worlds through his acceptance.
Did you hear that? Yeah. Thanks.
Acceptance that now is immediately shown with his reaction to the latest illegal escapades by the cable guy.
What is all this?
Breaking and entering. Somehow, it doesn't send him into a rage. He's just uncomfortable.
You got into my house when I wasn't home? Really, don't take this personally, but you have to take all this stuff back.
And based off his reaction, this even throws off the cable guy.
Okay.
But surprisingly, it doesn't offend him. Instead, he replies with neither sarcasm or malice, but...
My friend with the pickup works till Saturday. Can I leave it here till then?
Perhaps finally realizing the hold he has over Kovacs.
Go again next week. Sure, no problem.
Which leads us to the cockiest version of Cable Guy.
A few bites.
Big ones!
One who throws a karaoke party with several of his preferred customers, doing a musical number,
1, 2, 3,
and flaunting his friendship status with Kovacs' former BFF.
You're gonna have to learn to live with that.
But at the peak of playing bestie, Kovacs realizes that the Cable Guy has gotta go. All thanks to a woman. A prostitute woman. Tricked into having sex with the filet de joie, Kovacs starts to realize that the Cable Guy is
kinda retarded.
Like a large majority of human beings, Kovacs has complicated feelings with sex.
I really don't want to play this game.
And is shocked when the Cable Guy nonchalantly talks about it in detail. Playing the scene as though it were straight out of a sitcom, the Cable Guy explains that he's
checked her out about a week ago. Make sure she was top quality. And I'm healthy as a horse. Not a drip.
Unable to continue their friendship, he finally kicks the Cable Guy out of his life, returning him back to the presence of a regular TV, no longer wanting an active role within the story of Cable Guy, now literally seeing it unfold from the audience's POV,
as a bathroom attendant. The victim has been unable to speak,
and no longer requiring his services, as his relationship issues have seemingly been resolved. Sure, again, with the help of Cable Guy, but that's why he's gotta
work extra hard to not screw this relationship up again.
As last time Cable Guy helped, it didn't fix. A new opportunity to show Robin the small increments of progressive change he's made. However, the Cable Guy has now lost his only viewer, this time seemingly for good. Unable to provide a new story for Kovacs, it pushes him to ante up the entertainment to continue their story, bringing it full circle with Sam Sweet and the case that captivated the nation. Violence has been on television nearly as long as TV shows themselves have been. Viewers invested a great amount of time in shows like Gunsmoke or Lone Ranger, who used cheap tricks to help simulate the violence on screen, slowly progressing to being more and more graphic, while also filling viewers with an insatiable appetite. Just to put in perspective, the only show my mom used to watch was NCIS, as she deemed it as an appropriate amount of violence.
I will slit her throat.
She has since moved on to the likes of Breaking Bad, A woman who once grew up on the romances of Bewitched and I Love Lucy now watches Don Draper slaying mad amounts of all thanks to the continued progression of violence and sex in media. But we all know it's not real, so it's okay to watch, right?
Gonna smash their head in like this!
Yeah, it is. But what exactly crosses the line? When does violence or sex on TV garner the same reaction as it does in real life? Well, nothing can actually cross that line because no one on TV actually carries out those actions in reality. TV allows the viewer to live vicariously through characters.
Know that I have done. Oh my God, he loved me for real.
Essentially providing the audience with a service. But what if someone, understanding those rules, decided to break them? Well,
former child star Sam Sweet accused of shooting his twin brother Stan in cold blood.
A story that is seemingly only in the background of the entire movie, yet holds the world's attention and themes in the palm of its hand, meshing the worlds of reality and television together, showing its deteriorating effect on media. Both the cable guy and Sam Sweet did grow up on TV, with Sam having the more literal upbringing.
He did it!
The cable guy, however, is more in a figurative sense, with the only flashback in the entire movie being between him and his mother.
Now listen, you just sit there with Mr. Babysitter and he'll take real good care of you, okay?
Depicting the adolescent innocence of a young boy's relationship with television. A relationship so deep that it made him the person he is today, while also instilling a deep sense of loyalty, bringing to him, as it does with everyone else, company and entertainment. Allowing him to fulfill his deepest fantasies, hoping someday in the future to bring pride to his pseudo-father. Yeah, TV isn't his babysitter, more so his actual dad.
Congratulations, son. I love you.
There's not work.
As we see in the satellite scene that he never met his father.
I never met my father.
Yet, he goes into detail about a clearly traumatic experience for him, explaining reality is no longer father knows best anymore, but
it's a kick in the face on a Saturday night with a steel-toe grip Kodiak work boot, and a trip to the hospital bloodied and bashed for reconstructive surgery. But what doesn't kill us makes us stronger, right?
Finally giving us the last piece to the puzzle that is Cable Guy's brain, and why he ironically resorts to real violence and intimidation when his TV world is being threatened by reality. But in walks Sam Sweet, a person who has actually been bestowed with the gift of being on TV, a speaker for the speaker, committing blasphemy through killing his own brother in real life. Violent acts, just like Cable Guy's real father.
Kick in the face.
But Sam's a voice for TV, so
I hope they fry this bastard.
Again, completely ironic by the end of the movie, but also the point and reason why Cable Guy decides to have a seemingly arbitrary change in the end.
See ya.
As he recognizes that he's following the same path of Sam Sweet, but trying to mask it through the logic of TV and movies.
Gotta admit though, it's a pretty cool place for an ending.
An ending to what?
Cable Guy is even parallel to Sweet through several news bulletins, each of which gets progressively more sensationalized than the last. The first instance literally just being the court proceedings shown for a quick glimpse.
His own brother in cold blood.
Then, 2 minutes later, it's already evolved into a glamorized version, now using graphics and sound effects. But it doesn't end there, as the story continues on
MTV News.
Possibly one of the least credible news channels of all time, with a demographic usually ranging from 11 to 12. And finally,
Killing of Stanton Sweet.
a TV movie, taking a story that shows one man abusing his voice in television and desensitizing it to the point that the actual details of the case are now entertainment.
America has been waiting for. We have just been informed that
The jury has notified the judge that they've reached a verdict.
He did it!
Masquerading real violence as fake violence. Of course, the Cable Guy is not on the same level as Sam, but he does begin the similar journey,
Friends aren't supposed to speak to each other.
as he slowly utilizes more and more anger when faced with real-world problems.
Is that how you treat people?
Especially by the end, when in his attempts to fix the relationship of Stephen Kovacs, he decides it can only be done through relentlessly beating Owen Wilson in the potty room. But ironically, in his last-ditch attempt, he realizes in his effort to keep his viewership, he mistakenly completed Stephen's arc, saving his relationship,
That was Robin. I think that we're getting back together.
effectively writing him out of the story, and allowing Stephen to walk away from their friendship, leaving the Cable Guy in the rain, his entire world shattered, proving his inability to honor what he loves most, TV. And as soon as the film hits the hour mark, and Capelle Guy realizes he can no longer use its conventions, he shifts to the next best thing. almost exclusively referencing films from that point forward.
Remember Midnight Express? Like that movie GoldenEye. Kevin Costner, Waterworld.
And with the help of his newly founded godlike abilities,
If you build it, he will come.
he proceeds to terrify Steven for the rest of the film, with the last 30 minutes being pure mayhem for Kovacs, hit by one conflict after another, being arrested, fired from his job, and ostracized from his family.
What the hell is wrong with you, man?
His life methodically being destroyed.
You set me up. No, I taught you a lesson. I can be your best friend or your worst enemy.
Previously only just teetering on the edge, he finally crosses over, his own face now plastered all over the news, becoming the very thing he hated. Sam Sweet.
I hope they fry this bastard.
A source of endless content for an endless stream of viewership, resulting in an excellent dream sequence, now depicting a much creepier version of the cable guy.
No big deal!
Closely resembling an actual monster, hungering for Stephen Kovac's dreams. But in a call afterwards, we see a different shade of cable guy.
We could have been blood brothers.
No longer as lively as before, a shattered person utilizing the extreme natures of films to get Kovacs back into the story, but no longer having any joy doing it.
I'm just so tired, Steven. So very tired.
Building to the final confrontation at the satellite, where he's abducted Robin and now repeating lines from the very beginning.
You'll be able to visit the Louvre on one channel, or watch female mud wrestling on another.
Unsure on what's next, clearly exhausted. Only when he sees Robin's terrified face and hear her pleas reminding him of Steven, does he start to realize what he's actually been doing. Not becoming Sam Sweet, but his father. The same person who beat him so much to the point that he got a stutter. Now only one step away from hurting someone just as bad, and, on top of that, using the logic of TV and movies to do it.
Why didn't you take my call?
What does it say that I gotta drop what I'm doing and answer the phone every time it rings?
Finally, understanding this, he takes control, reworking his plan, changing the placement of Robin, and going moment to moment with no plan.
Winging it, really!
But guiding Steven to becoming the hero of the story.
Oh, here comes our hero!
Finally becoming a fictional antagonist, not the real one. Making jokes along the way.
It is not a myth! I've seen it!
Completely dropping the seriousness and embracing the campy style we have come to know him for. Choosing, in classic cable guy fashion, to end it like an episode of TV, with a simplistic lesson about killing the babysitter.
To kill the babysitter.
And read a book, maybe? Letting go of his rage and Steven's hand, he falls, cutting the world off from TV and the toxic nature of Sam Sweet. A fantastic satire examining not only the deterioration of media, but also the lengths it'll go to stay in our lives, attempting to remain relevant by capitalizing off humans' primal lust for violence or sex through any means necessary.
Jacob Sweet has been found.
Originally, on my first watch, I thought the end would reveal that Cable Guy is the actual killer of Sam Sweet's brother, but instead was surprised to find that it just drops the plot thread entirely with no resolution. But just because the signal stopped doesn't mean the trial did. It'll finish, it'll be reported on later, it'll continue. But it won't get an ending, because just like Stephen Kovac's, it's real life. In fact, the only character to receive an ending is the Cable Guy. Breaking free from the narrative and taking control, literally hijacking the movie, ending with the I Love Lucy theme, a new victim to continue with.
Am I really your buddy?
Yeah, sure you are!
And a song that literally has the lyrics, just leave me alone, leave me alone. Finally, content with being a creep, a weirdo, no longer having an audience, but still being a character, poetically freeing the Cable Guy from the clutches of reality, never to be seen again.
But I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. Why am I doing TV? I don't belong here. I don't belong.
Fuck the commercial. The commercial is not canon. Thank you for watching, and feel free to comment below, as I will read it because I have nothing to do. Take care now.
This concludes our broadcast day. Click.